Welcome to the Daily Dose, and we're excited to be able to be back this week talking about unlikely heroes. The Bible is filled with all sorts of names that oftentimes we just kind of glance by, or maybe their story is a little bit of a footnote to the main story. But isn't it something that their name was written in the Bible and they're known for generations, but sometimes we don't really focus in on what their contribution was. And that's what we're going to be talking about this week. And I'm excited to be able to have Allison with us here today. Say your last name for us because I always get it mixed up.
It's Vandewarker?
Yes, Vandewarker. Anyway, I won't go into the ways I've pronounced it. Yes.
All of them are acceptable.
I know you've done plenty of daily doses, but oftentimes we don't get to meet individuals on our staff. So who are you and what do you do around here?
Okay, I am Allison Vandewarker, and I am a life group pastor here on the North Coast Vista campus, which is so exciting. And I serve all of our family life groups, from young families to parents of teens and often parents of young adults, which is just a really fun range of people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then family, tell us a little bit about your family.
So my husband, Jason, and I have been married for 18 years. We have 3 kids. Our son, Jonah, is 15, Bennett is 13, and Daisy is 10.
Fun. Allison she is very versed in literature and always has a good quote. And I'm sure she will have a few good quotes for us today. But I'm really excited to be talking about this content. And when you and I started discussing this whole unlikely heroes, or we had said people unlikely to be really looked at with much intention in the Bible, the first person you really thought of was Elizabeth.
Totally.
Why Elizabeth?
I think Elizabeth is so important because in her context, in her society, she was seen kind of as not fulfilling her role because she was barren and she was married to a priest who had kind of high standing. And we see someone who the world looked at as broken. And yet we'll read that like God saw her as flawless, as like perfect in her walk, which is incredible. Mm-hmm. That his kingdom is so different. One of my favorite verses, that God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. Yeah. And I think this is it. Like all of society is saying you're cursed because God isn't opening your womb. And God is saying like, no, actually, you're completely blessed.
Okay. So that's great. That's a little bit of a preview of what we're going to be talking about. Let's go ahead and go into God's word and read some of what her story is.
For sure. So we're going to kind of skip around because a lot of the biblical story is actually Zacharias. And I want to focus on Elizabeth. And so we'll read the precursor that explains them and then kind of her reaction to how her life changes.
Cool.
So
let's do it.
We're going to be in Luke 1, 5 through 7, and 23 to 25. So in the time of Herod, king of Judah, there was a priest named Zachariah who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. His wife Elizabeth was also a descendant of Aaron. Both of them were righteous in the sight of God, observing all the Lord's commands and decrees blamelessly. But they were childless because Elizabeth was not able to conceive, and they were both very old.
Pretty much a doom and gloom right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super sad.
Big deal. Okay, so do you want to stop here? Or let's go on to our next passage, and then we'll just go back through it.
Okay, so to set the scene, an angel has appeared to Zechariah. He's like, you guys are going to have a kid. He's going to be a prophet. And Zechariah's like, what are you talking about? That's wild. And so he actually can't talk for like the whole pregnancy. But he does go, and it says in 23, when his time of service was completed, so he was doing some special service at the temple, so he couldn't see his wife for a while, he returned home. After this, his wife Elizabeth became pregnant and for 5 months remained in seclusion. The Lord has done this for me, she said. In these days he has shown his favor and taken away my disgrace among the people.
So this amazing scene here.
Yeah.
Interesting that this is a miraculous birth before the miraculous birth.
Totally.
And so let's break down a little bit more, though, the whole concept that Elizabeth was disgraced. Why?
So in the Old Testament, I've done some research on this. Although we have a lot of evidence that God used barren women to do amazing things, it wasn't always that way. And so because the Jewish people believe that God opened their womb, if your womb wasn't open, it's because God cursed you or told you like you are not going to. And so it was seen as a negative, like you've probably messed up or you're not worthy. And so that society was probably always telling her like that she wasn't enough.
Yeah, or you could have sin issues.
So many things. And that was like, that's what you're supposed to do, is produce an heir.
Right. And the ironic thing, and I was telling you a little bit about my story, is that I was the cause for my wife and I not being able to have children right away. And that's not even really taken into account at this point in time, is just that if a couple wasn't able to have kids, it was solely the woman's fault.
Solely the woman's fault, and also solely her purpose in a lot of ways. And so I also struggled with infertility because of my own weakness and my own eating disorders. And it was so hard every month to have that disappointment. But I had so much else in my life through that season. And so for her, every day or every month waking up and realizing it's a no, when that's like the number one thing you were supposed to do as a wife, was give your husband an heir. Like, I cannot imagine the amount of sorrow and grief that she suffered.
Yeah, you'd even just mentioned that whole idea of monthly disappointment.
Yeah.
Even in your own story, what was that like in terms of that monthly struggle of like, it was that reminder, yep, not again.
Yeah. For me, it was kind of a reminder of like, you've failed. Because I knew that a lot of this was because of my own choices. And I think, and for me, it was silent. Like, I didn't tell anyone that I was struggling with this beyond like my mom and my husband. They were the only people who knew. And so it was like this secret grief that I carried. And I would just pray. I would walk and pray for hours and hours and hours. And like the weight of that, and the weight of guilt, and the weight of shame. And I love that when she speaks, she says that he has taken away my disgrace among the people. Somehow Elizabeth knew that her disgrace was not in front of God. That even though everyone around her is telling her, like, you are cursed, God doesn't want to give you a child, she knows that, like, what her real purpose was to glorify God. And so she lived her life doing that, even when the world was telling her that her real purpose was something she couldn't fulfill.
Right. It's interesting, this secret shame that sometimes that we go through, whether it's been because of some of our own actions or just the circumstances of our life, and we go through our day feeling this shame or this guilt or this I'm less than. And, he says that, that she's blameless.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is so important in this particular passage? That it's mentioned there that it's blameless.
I think because the messaging was like, God is not choosing you, that this is your fault. I mean, I read that and it like warms my own heart for my own mistakes, and knowing that even when I fall short, when God sees me, he sees Jesus. He sees me as pure and blameless and righteous and holy, and like, I'm still usable. Elizabeth was really old and nobody expected either of them to have a child at this point. And God's like, actually, like, you are perfect for what I want to do. And I think in part because it is surprising and it is miraculous. And we'll find out how much God used her circumstance to help other people navigate similarly surprising and marginalizing circumstances.
So there's this whole aspect of her being seen and valued. Let's talk real quick to those individuals that are listening today and they don't feel seen. They don't feel valued for whatever their circumstance may be, whether it is potentially infertility, or maybe it's they're divorced, or they're single and just feel like they don't measure up in the midst of their friends. Their friends are either married or they have kids, and they don't. And so they sit in this silence. How do you really feel like this story encourages maybe you or others in the midst of this? How does this encourage us?
I think one of the biggest things is understanding that God is not using the same measuring tool on us that the world is. That like these pieces that people put on us as like, this is what makes you valuable. This is what makes you able to be used more. God only wants to use, I don't know, married people, which is ridiculous. But there's all these like standards we put on each other. And God's sitting there and he's saying, all I created you for was to glorify me. And so if we can continue to, even in our silent grief, cry out both in sadness, but also with hope and with faith, I think that glorifies God. I think understanding that it's going to look different from different people. And that also is like a beautiful, glorifying thing. One of my teachers always says that like, the body of believers is like a stained glass window. That like there's different colors and different sizes and different textures, but like that's what makes the beautiful tapestry of the church. And so I would encourage anyone who is suffering with silent grief, who is suffering with, I don't fit the mold, I'm not fulfilling what somebody at my age should be doing, that like actually maybe God has you in that shape, in that texture, in that color for a specific purpose in the beautiful tapestry he's building.
Absolutely. We can lose our sense of purpose by comparison.
Yeah.
And looking at God has maybe something beautiful for me that I can glorify him with.
100%.
Man, this is rich. Thank you so much, Allison. And
Thank you.
We're going to be talking tomorrow more about unlikely heroes. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you tomorrow.